All right, let's break down Fanduel. I will tell you, I'm going to talk about this on each show as I break this stuff down. I think because it's a short slate, the likely scenario, there are some higher scoring games, mainly on this Thursday slate. I mean, on the Friday slate. Like Saturday's less high scoring dependent, but I think Saturday, what you're going to end up with is one game, maybe two shootout, and you're probably going to need a game stack in order to make it work, or just hit on the right team, right? If Texas Tech blows BYU out, then it's going to change some things, but you're going to have to nail that. And it's just one of those situations where you're going to want to nail something. And I've kind of run into it where I'm trying to build some Friday stuff and trying to build some game stack stuff that I think is going to be a little bit lower owned. Yeah, I think you're just going to have to hit on it. It's just a weird way to build. So looking at this thing, starting out with Kennesaw Jack State, I like this game a good bit. I think you can build a lot of ways around it. Caden Creel is going to be a very good play, a strong play at 10-5 because of his rushing ability. FanDuel is so much more dependent at the quarterback position on your rushing capability. So Creel, with his 4 straight 100-yard games, you're going to want to rely on the rushing game, the rushing ability of these quarterbacks, especially on this Friday slate. You've got runners for Kennesaw, runners for Jack State, runners for Tulane. Mestamaker is probably the best option as far as just a pure passer. And then Barnett for JMU and Calandria, they're all runners, right? Madsen's going to be back. I just think Troy is just an awful option unless you take one shot here or there on a wide receiver. So that's kind of the way I would look at it. It's supposed to be very cold in Harrisonburg this weekend or on Friday night with a wintry mix. It's going to be very difficult for Troy in that situation. I would say better than Mike Houston and Signetti. I would say Bob Chesney has handled this a lot better than both did. Houston handled it awful. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It really soured everyone the way he handled it, which made sense why they didn't show up in the playoff game because Houston handled it absolutely terribly, and it showed when he went to East Carolina. And now, Amari Odom should get all the work here. He is a very good option, high ceiling, low floor. If I was going to play this game through anything and game stack it, I do like playing Creel and Odom in it because I think both need to be successful for different reasons. Kennesaw's play is going to come through the pass game, which Odom provides. Odom's also one of their better runners. And then Creel is going to be one of your top runners. And if this game shoots out, it's going to be Jack State on the ground with Cam Cook. I don't personally like playing Coleman Bennett as much. He does catch the ball a little bit, which gives you some equity there. But realistically, if Kennesaw gets a number, puts up a 30 burger here, it's going to come through the quarterback pass game play and pairing it with a Cam Cook and Creel. So I do think there's viability now. Cook being that expensive does provide some issues, we'll say, but I do like the Creel. I don't mind and don't have an issue playing Creel and Cook together. It's very similar to Trey Stewart, Tyler Huff from a year ago. You're going to get a ton of rushing ability out of Jack State. That's just the way that team's been built under Rich Rod and now under this new staff, is to run the heck out of the football. They are a fine pairing, even though they don't necessarily correlate from a pass catching standpoint, right? You're not going to get 4 for 77 very often out of Cam Cook getting you some points and value there. Now, the difference is I think both of them run for 100 yards and a touchdown at least. So you're probably getting 200 yards and a touchdown out of each, total. So you're probably getting, that's 30 plus points just from running between Cook and Creel. and they have the upside to really hog all of the touchdown equity on the ground, specifically. So 4+ touchdowns out of them would not be a shock. And then just getting both covers all your bases when they get all the yards and all the points. Then Odom, I would say I would prefer to pair him with Benyard for obvious reasons, but 9,300 is a hefty price tag. So you're going to have to make some decisions there as to whether you want to play Benyard with Amari Odom in this spot. You do have some flexibility here. DeAndre Johnson is priced up on FanDuel. He's definitely the best option from the Jack State side. If you were going to play a wide out, which I don't necessarily know that I would recommend, he scored 5 weeks in a row. He's going to be a popular click if I was to guess. I think most people would say they wanted to play Kopic. This kid's just playing out of his mind. I think I'd probably prefer Kopic to Binyard in this spot because of the price discrepancy. Now, granted, I don't know that I would discount Moss here. Moss has the ability to be able to pop off, and at 6,800, he would be a fine play as a secondary option for your stacks. So let's work through a game stack here. So I would say that's a guaranteed lock. That's a lock. That's a lock. So you'd have to lock those 3 in. Now you got to start figuring out how I'm going to piece together this. I'd say you're probably going to want these 2 or this. It's got to be one of these 2, but let's just go work it through that. And then I would fill in a cheap wide receiver in a different game and a cheap run, and to give me some room for a running back, but we'll have to wait and see what we have. But that's kind of the way I would build out a game stack here in this spot. All right. Looking at the JMU Troy game, like I said, I'm not really interested at all. I mean, that's a terrible price for these guys anyway. If you start looking at, 9,600 is a steal compared to the Troy guys and where they're priced at. 11-3 for Barnett. I would prefer the guys in the first game at quarterback to Barnett. Barnett is serviceable enough on the ground. You're not getting an ODU game out of him. That's just a different level of game and different situation. Given the wintry mix and things like that, I would expect somewhere in the neighborhood of 240 pass yards, 230 pass yards, probably 30 something on the ground with a shot, 50-50 chance for a touchdown, very similar to the last 2 weeks. Probably throws multiple touchdowns, but given the wintry mix, it is very possible. I would be underweight on Barnett at 11-3 just based off of the pricing in that first game. I prefer those 2 quarterbacks personally. Man, I really am interested in Joby Mallory on DK. I think I'm less interested on FanDuel than I am on DK, but I don't hate it as an option. Petaway is back, but he's just not playing a lot, which is actually kind of surprising to me. I do buy the talent of George Petaway. Just doesn't hold up as well, personally. I wish Adayu would be back. Okay, he's preserving his red shirt. Interesting. I need to look into if conference title games count towards your red shirt. I need to look that up because that is important when it comes to Ayo Adayi. Yep. Do conference? No. Ooh. Okay, so Ayo Adayi is going to play. All right, that changes things. All right, I got to talk to some people then. Obviously, you guys know I'm connected enough to the JMU side to know some stuff. I'm gonna have to ask some questions of some people. I'll try to find out about that because that's gonna make a difference. It doesn't hurt Wayne Knight at all. Wayne Knight's gonna catch the football. He's gonna run football. I do expect JMU just to run the football down their throat, whether that be Joby Mallory, who they've trusted for a large, for a portion of the season. He's more of the power back, Knight is much more of a explosive scat back style. He's well in play. He catches the football well in short areas. In a wintry mix situation, I wonder if they lean on these bigger guys. A Dai at 4K could end up being extremely interesting. Could he get 13, 12 carries, double digit carries at 4K? That's possible. I'm gonna have to ask about that. I do think that's a possibility. I'm not gonna write that off as an impossible task. Um, yeah. So I don't think I would like Mallory. It's too thin at 7K. I would like Wayne Knight at 9K, but I far prefer Cam Cook is a top tier option that is worth spending salary on, no doubt about it. Landon Ellis is supposed to return this week. He's been the number one option in the past game here. It's not a high volume attack. I don't expect it to be a high volume attack, so you're taking a massive risk trying to go get one. I would prefer of the pricing at 75, 69, and 65. Granted, Wislowski's kind of on the field because of that. I wonder if Sanchez ends up being the better option at 55. They do take shots to Sanchez. There's not a ton of difference between the group. Wislowski does have the punt return capability, but he's very low volume in this passing attack. The passing attack as a whole is spread out. I think if I was playing anybody, I'd probably stick to the JMU running backs and Ra Thomas. I prefer Ra Thomas just because he's the most talented of the bunch at 6,600. Do I really want to go there? Probably not, but I will be willing to take shots on those guys. Man, that is really throwing me is that price to be able to pay 4K for Ayo Adai. I don't think they go there, but man, does that stick out, I will say. Mestamaker at 12-2. I'm not super interested. Like, I like both quarterbacks at their price in the first game. And maybe it's just because I've been building these Kennesaw Jack stacks. I just feel like that game shoots out. 10-8 for Retzloff is a very fair price. I'm very interested in that. I think he's a fabulous option right there with Caden Creel, right there with Amari Odom. So the deal with Retzloff is you've got a 32.5 point team total on a 2-lane team. And he runs the ball well enough. He has plenty of touchdown upside on the ground. He's going to throw the ball well enough. And the rest of the offense, if you're buying 2-lane at all into a game stack here, which you're going to want to an extent, it's got to revolve around Retzloff because nobody else is trustworthy on this 2-lane offense. Depending on pricing, you could look at the wide receivers. Hawkins, you're going to have to play Hawkins more often than not because he's just insane when it comes to running the football. Now, the matchup is more difficult. And I like pivoting off of it just because if we get lucky and somehow end up with a USF score here, then we're printing. So intuition tells me to lay off of Hawkins. Fact is that starting a team with Hawkins and Cook is like kind of cheating in an extent, but there's ways to be able to play it. I would avoid personally any of these 2-lane guys. They just split too much work for me. I'm not super interested there. Wyatt Young, if you're going to play a stack, I would play some Wyatt Young with 2-lane is pretty weak on the back end by comparison. So, like, you can play some Mestamaker, Wyatt Young. You could play Mestamaker, Dorner. I would add Coleman to that stack if I was going to play anybody. I do like Miles Coleman. The biggest games is when he kind of steps up. You saw it in that USF game, 7 for 101. That was the game where Hawkins did not play very well. Granted, Dorner didn't play in that game, so that let Coleman play. So that is part of the issue there. No, let me see. Let me double check that because I was looking at the Charlotte game. Wyatt Young did play in that game. Dorner did play in that game. Okay, so yeah, so Coleman's still operating as the 3. I did see him on the field plenty last week. Landon Sides now sucks. If I was playing anybody from the Tulane side, it's probably Preston. He's the better of the bunch. I just don't think I would pair. I would prefer not to pair Retzlaff because it moves around so much. It could be an Amari Hayes week. It could be, Bohannon's questionable. Like they just split so many pass attempts up. Dalton Carnes doesn't do anything now. Last year he was doing stuff. It's insane what happens with these two teams. These two teams are very difficult to predict from a pass catcher standpoint. North Texas, you somewhat know because you kind of know Dorner and Young are going to be on the field, and then Coleman really is the 3, and then they kind of mix it around after that. But it's still a rotation. But there's a lot of wide receiver mixing and matching across the board in this slate, which makes it very, very tricky. Getting those wide receivers right is going to be the key here. So Calandria, that's too expensive. I would rather play right now if I was ranking them. Let's see. Madsen's back, but I mean the interest in Madsen's limited. If I was to guess on a points per dollar basis, I would rank the quarterbacks Odom 1, Creel 2, Retzlaff 3. Yeah, I'd go Odom, Creel, Retzlaff. I honestly would rank it this way, going this direction. Like it would be Odom, Creel, Retzlaff, Calandria, then Barnett, Mestamaker, and then Madsen's a very clear last for me because he hasn't played in forever. He doesn't run. I mean, I'm not even considering these two Troy guys. Yeah, I actually really like, and I really do like that Kennesaw game. Like, I'm going to have way too much exposure to that Kennesaw Jack State game because that game just screams shootout to me for some reason. It's a very concentrated shootout for my money. Like, I know where the ball's going to go. Whereas North Texas Tulane, I don't necessarily know where the ball is going to go outside of Hawkins necessarily. And then you can get to Mestamaker, but Mestamaker doesn't have the rushing upside. Then when you do it, you kind of like realistically, my favorite stack in this North Texas Tulane game is going to be a Hawkins. It would be these two together as like a skinny. Because if Hawkins blows up, Retzlaff blows up, and it kind of helps each other. And I don't even know that I would like to pair Retzlaff. I think it's just you pair the two for the most part. But then if the game explodes, it's probably got to have some other pieces. So like Miles Coleman makes a ton of sense at 6,100. And then the Tulane's just such a pain to figure out. So yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I just love game stacks at this one. It's just too much fun. All right. Boise State's going to be able to run the hell out of the football. They're going to run the football, but they have a 3-headed monster. You could take shots on Malik Sherrod. It's not fun, but it's not terrible either. You could take shots on Kayvon Lee on the UNLV side, 54 and 5,600. Very fair price tags on these guys. They are secondary pieces here. And you have upside because you could get an 8 to 12 point game out of him, even with Jaden Thomas in the lineup. But then again, Jaden Thomas can take all the work and you get 1 point. It's very possible. Both sides, very possible in that spot. Sherrod, very similar situation. He could get you 10, 12 points. He's very good out of the pass game. If he finds the end zone, you're going to be very happy. If he doesn't, it could be a very well a Sire Gaines or a Dylan Riley spot. I do like Gaines a good bit. I know he's going to probably get double-digit carries. He's going to perform pretty well. He performed well enough in that UNLV game. He did kind of get bailed out because he scored 2 touchdowns on 7 touches. But he's always capable of a 20-carry game and 20-plus points. Now, Riley's the more consistent, safe option. I just don't know that Riley wins you this slate. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Riley had a good game against UNLV before, 200 yards on the ground. It was probably his best game of the season outside of the Air Force game where he exploded. So Riley's fully in play. Jaden Thomas at 9,200, very fair price on him as well. He's in play. He's also got a high ceiling, low floor. I probably prefer going to Riley over Thomas. I'm going to want to play UNLV through the pass game and Boise through their run game. It is viable to stack multiple Boise running backs in a lineup. I think that's reasonable as well. It's very tough to decide between Gaines and Riley. I have priors that tell me I think Riley is a better player. I'm not playing Day Reynolds at 7,600. He does not get targeted enough. He's not on the field enough. I have lived that life enough and watched it plenty to know that I would rather play any number. Like outside of Jaden Bradley, they rotate a ton. And even Jaden Bradley does not have those crazy high numbers. So 8,400 for Bradley, I'm not super stoked about. I would prefer to take shots down here. I would take shots on O'Meary at 6,700. He's on the field a good bit. Lyons is on the field a good bit at 5,700. He's not great, but he's out there every once in a while, so he can get there. Irvin is on the field. He's not as good. I wouldn't play Irvin by comparison. I'd play Lyons over Irvin. I don't mind O'Meary. And then JoJo Earl is the other one that I've been trying to figure out whether I want to consider him or not. Massively talented player. He's come on strong in the last 2 weeks. Do I want to buy into it or not? I would prefer Lions to the two of them at 5,700 if I was taking that very low shot. However, I probably do prefer Louder at 5,200. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. With Madsen back, he's not mobile. You're probably going to end up with, like, you see these targets early in the season. That's what Maddox. Madsen, yeah, the floor's been down there, but there was no touchdowns. He's always alive for a 2-touchdown game. He was a good player for a long, long time last year, especially with Madsen in the lineup. 5,200, that feels cheap. If I was game stacking this thing, I probably do want Louder. And I probably want, you're probably going to need to take a shot on one of these guys. I like Marshall over Caples personally, but Caples is always live to get you a big game. He needs like a 5 for 84 and 2 spot. That's why I kind of prefer Louder. I'd rather just pay down there. Marshall is the most talented of the bunch. He's going to probably end up with the most yardage. It's just if he finds the box multiple times, can he get there? I just would shoot for Louder in that spot. If I was game stacking this thing, I probably want to do it. I mean, I'd be tempted to do Gaines and Riley and then just punt Louder out of the way. That way I can go double wide receiver. Maybe I end up with Lions and somebody else. But then that gives me this is one way to game stack it. Maybe you end up with Louder, maybe you don't. But then you can get Cam Cook in this spot, or you can go Caleb Hawkins. Let's say you go Hawkins, you can easily go Creel. And then that leaves you 5,300 for a wide receiver. It's not optimal. Let's just say you want to go Cook. All right, let's say you want to go Cook and Odom. That's a fun way to play it. And then you got 8K for a wide receiver. That gives you Dorner as an option, but I think it's viable that you just say, all right, maybe that game goes under. You play Kopic. You get your Kennesaw stack, your Jack State bring back on that. You can jump around too, because then you can also go down to Sire Gaines. That gives you some options to be able to play Cook. You could play Mestamaker and somebody maybe that gets you somewhere else. You could play Retzloff, and instead of Cook, you play Hawkins. So a lot of ways to be able to play this in a different spot. I do think there's a lot of ways that you can maneuver around it. My favorite way is 1000% going to be definitely the Creole, Odom, Cook, and then I want to double these guys. So let's just say we do it that way. And then I would go, my favorite way is going to be probably Sire Gaines with a wide receiver. DeGennaro's fine. It's not my favorite play, but maybe it's O'Meary, right? And then I get Gaines O'Meary. I get a little correlation that way. Can I do it where I go Moss and Binyard is the question. Can I get Binyard? I can, but I might. You know what? That would be a fun way to play that too. You could go. You could go up to Kopic in this spot. You could go Adai if I get confirmation that he's going to play and play a lot. You could. Oh, there's your way to play that. There's your easy way to play that. You go there. Now you've got your spot here. That gives you the option. You could go Marshall. You say Boise blows them out. Yeah, there's a couple ways to be able to play that. That makes a lot of sense too. You could also go up to Kopic. You would have an extra 9K. That's 6,500. You would leave you. So, I mean, Wislowski, I don't particularly love in that spot. But like, yeah, there's a couple ways to play that. But there's some fun ways to maneuver around the Friday slate on this. So I'm gonna play around with it a little bit more and play some different stuff. Now, the difference between the two slates is a stark contrast for me personally. I think because of the game selection on Friday, you can mix match. You don't necessarily have to game stack. I think it's a fun way to play it, but I'm going to play it both ways, right? I'm going to game stack some of it, and I'm going to do it with where I just go, all right, I want Hawkins. I want this cat. I don't think you have to play two quarterbacks. You probably should on Friday because there's so much rushing ability of the quarterback position. Saturday just screams game stacks because all the games are projected to be like most of the team totals, other than two, are sub 30. Other than Virginia Duke is the highest scoring projection game at 57.5, with 30-27 basically being the projected score. Texas Tech's projected to score 32, but Texas Tech spreads it around so much. So most of these teams spread it around pretty well. And I don't really want to play Bayron. Bear Bachmeier is going to be ridiculously. I would say he gets a ton of steam because he's 8,500 and runs the football so much. The problem is Texas Tech's defense is so good. So I doubt I want Bachmeier. Maybe I take a shot or two, but I don't love it. Bayron, I don't love at 86. I think they just try to run the football, keep him healthy, work it pretty simple. I thought that last week to an extent. He threw for 300 yards and three touchdowns. But depending on what the pricing is in this game at quarterback, it's going to make a big difference as to how I decide to play the rest of the week. It's going to matter in this game. It's going to matter in this game. It's really going to matter the rest of the way. I don't love the quarterbacks in this game from a raw point standpoint. I got to wait and see what projections say, but I don't love it. I would prefer Jacoby Williams. I think his explosiveness plays in this matchup. The physicality of Dickey matters, but BYU is physical. So I don't particularly love that. I don't like LJ Martin whatsoever at 8.6. I'd rather play, I'd rather get to Bachmeier in that spot. Chase Roberts being in or out matters a lot to me. If he's in, I prefer him to Kingston at 7-1. He probably will try to play, probably will be in. Douglas at 8.3 is a fine option. That's a reasonable price tag. Virgil at 6.7, also reasonable price tag. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Coy Eakin's going to eventually have a day where he just ends up popping off. He's been awful. Terrence Carter been a great option. I think he's very good. This is really making me want to say that I think Virgil Carter doubles with Morton are viable. We'll say. I don't think you need to bring back either. If Roberts is out, I think Carson Ryan's an option no matter what at 52. If you're punting, he's a punt play, very much so. If Roberts is out, JoJo Phillips would move up for me at 5,100 and be a punt option. So would Tiger Bachmeier probably, but I would probably prefer the other way. Like I said, this game matters. It has a extremely low total, the lowest total on the slate. Neither team's projected to score really but 3 touchdowns. But this game matters a ton because these two quarterbacks matter for me, especially at this price. Brock Lowry at 10.5 needs to be in play. And I will play Brock Lowry because now he's cheap enough. He's going to run the heck out of the football. These two teams have played each other. He had 20 carries. So I'm getting 15 carries, 80 plus yards, and a very likely chance at a touchdown, at least on the ground. And being in the dome, I'm probably going to get more pass volume, more guaranteed pass volume. I don't have to worry about 9 passes, 14 passes. I probably get closer to 150 yards passing with 20 carries. This screams Parker Navarro from last year in that championship game where he had 4 touchdowns. I refuse to miss out on it. I'm going to have a ton of Brock Lowry. He's cheap on both sites by my account. So I will play a ton of Brock Lowry. Do not discount this Miami of Ohio Western Michigan game. You need to play it. Gotkowski has come on now that Daquan Finn is preparing for the NFL draft. Don't know why. I like you, Daquan Finn, but that's just the dumbest statement that's ever been uttered. Gotkowski's 1,000% in play for me as well. He has mobility. Western Michigan's defense does not particularly scare me, and he throws the ball pretty well. He's the one I would be more likely to stack in this spot. I like game stacks of this game. I don't love Buckley. I don't love Brunson, but I think you could take shots on Brunson at 6'6". He gets enough work. I'm gonna debate on that. That is a low price in this spot. Buckley, reasonable price on him, very much so. 4 straight weeks with a touchdown. That is a very reasonable price. You can, because of the rushing upside, pair Lowry with Buckley, very similar to the Caden Creel, Cam Cook. They're like a cheap version of Creel and Cook, which is interesting. And I don't mind Brunson. I don't mind Gotkowski. I personally am going to end up playing the run game for Western Mich and the pass game for Miami of Ohio. If you want to play a wide receiver, it's going to be Tyleik Williams. He's the very clear number 1. At 7'3", I might take a shot or 2, but I doubt it. I'm more interested in playing the Miami of Ohio pass catchers. Cole Weaver is my favorite. I was high on Cole Weaver coming into the season. So at 65, he's played with the quarterback the last 2 weeks, has 5 catches each of the last 2 weeks. I would prefer him as a stack option with him. I do not hate a double stack with Cam Perry. Cam Perry's caught a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. So if you want to double stack it, I'm perfectly fine with it. I would play, if I was game stacking this out, it would be that way. Right there. Bang. And then I have 9,100, so I could play any running back I want here, and I could play any wide receiver I want for the most part, probably. In this spot, this would be the game the way I would game stack this. I will game stack this because I'm sick, and I decide that I'm going to do this at low ownership. It's the best way to play this game. You can also do this where you take Buckley out. You could do this where you take out one of these wide receivers, and I would probably take out Perry personally. I don't even mind just doing it skinny like this on the off chance that Lowry scores 4 touchdowns on the ground. Gotkowski has to play catch up, and then you play one with another, I think there's viability to both to that play there. Bama Georgia is the game that always has a lower over under in it in the SEC title game, and they hit the over basically yearly. So I will be playing a ton of this because Bama can't run the football. I'm out now because of this Bama, because of the Ty Simpson price. I'm out on Bayron. I'm going to end up playing a lot of this. I'll play it with Lowry more than likely. I'll play it with a stack option of Gotkowski with Jaden Nixon. And that way I could stack it. Like this game's just just load up on this one. That's easy to do. If I wasn't playing Stockton, I like Nate Frazier. Don't hate him. Y'all know I'm not playing a single, like he's playing very well right now. So it's very hard not to be able to go here. So I'm interested. He's holding the ball really high and tight. I do like the way he's running the football. He's not been fumbling. So I'm in on that. I'm out on every Bama running back. If I was punting, I don't hate a punt of Josh McCray. I think that this game right here is in play for range of outcomes where he has 2 touchdowns on the ground, or he had a touchdown against Bama the last time. So at 5,300, if I needed a last man in down there, I do have interest. Y'all know I'm not playing Ryan Williams. I will play Bernard. I will play Branch. If I was stacking this one out, I'm playing Branch. I'd be tempted by Noah Thomas, but I think there's less certainty. I like the price on Noah Thomas. I know he was awful last week. It doesn't bother me. I prefer Noah Thomas at 5,700 to each of the other guys. You can always take shots on the tight ends and Dylan Bell. I think Lucky might be the preferred one for me. Maybe Lucky. This just screams one of those guys scoring. I'd probably prefer to go Bernard and Horton or Brooks. I don't think I hate that, but let's just say Horton. Horton scores more touchdowns. So I think this is viable, very much so, to be able to play a triple of this game. But I would play a double. My double would come from Bama because I don't trust, because they spread the ball a bit more. It's going to be a lot harder for Simpson to get there without 2 guys getting there than it is for Stockton to get there with 1 guy, because Stockton has the mobility. Indiana taking on Ohio State. What are these 2 priced at? That is going to be interesting. So $10K for Sayin, that puts doubles in play for him. 10-8 for Mendoza. He's probably not my favorite. I prefer to go that direction. Bojack at 8-1. I'm not playing the Indiana running backs. They worry me too much. I would play Bojack at 8-1. No issues there. I think Donaldson is viable as a punt. He'll get a ton of carries, specifically around the goal line, and he can get there with touchdown equity. Bojack has been taken over this room, so I think he's in play. And then Jeremiah and Carnell Tate would be the 2 options in the pass game for Ohio State. If you're playing Sayin, you're playing both. I mean, if you're going this direction, that's where you're going. Period. End of story. I don't think you're playing it any other way. So if you're going to play it, you got to play that. And it's cheap enough to play, no problem, given the context of what the other pricing is. If you're playing Mendoza, I think both guys are in play. Surratt and Cooper, you're probably going to have to go that direction. I wouldn't really look towards the ancillary weapons in this spot. All right, Mensa's 98. I don't love that. I prefer Morris at 95. I think you could play Mensa, but he's going to have to be double stacked. Morris does not need to be double stacked. Albeit, I like Morris to be double stacked. Jamari Taylor is going to be a great option. He's the best running back on the slate from a volume standpoint. He gets all the touches. I think you're going to end up having to play Jamari Taylor. I wonder what price considered. What are my 2 favorite running backs? probably Jamari Taylor. And you could play Jamari Taylor stacked with Chandler Morris. That's the thing. Maybe Nate Frazier for the price. I mean, Buckley, Frazier, and Taylor and Bojack. Probably Bojack and Taylor. I don't know. That's 50-50, man. That's a tough one. I think you're going to have to mix and match. That's not very straightforward. Nate Shepard's priced up a little bit more than I would like. He is extremely explosive, but at the same time, he's kind of hit a little bit of a wall. And Virginia's decent enough on defense that I would prefer to not pay that. 8,500 for Barcade. If you're paying for Mensa, you got to pay for Barcade. I don't think you have to stack these teams. Trell is going to be the obvious play, and I think most people go there. After he had that 8 for 161 and 1 against Duke, I think most people do go there. I think I would differentiate by going double stack. I would personally play Cam Ross. I actually buy into this. He's been getting healthier and healthier and healthier. Yes, he had no volume, but he had 7 for 63 against Duke. I think that goes overlooked for Trell Harris. So I think a different way to get there is this. I also don't mind this. And I really actually don't hate onslaught of that because they can all get there. But yeah, I don't mind being able to play a triple on Virginia as a way to get different. I think most people are going to play it that way, personally, and I would prefer to play it the other way. I'd prefer to play Cam Ross, and then that would give me the Cam Ross side gives me the optionality to go here, here, and here, which realistically. Actually, I don't think you need to play Sayin because if Sayin scores, let's just say Sayin scores in the low 20s because like he scored 21 last week against Michigan. All right, Tate against Michigan scored 16, and Smith against Michigan should have scored almost nothing, but he managed to keep the touchdown. Scored 11, so he didn't really have that game-breaking. That's rude. What are we doing? I don't want to add funds, you idiot. I don't need funds. Stop. What are we doing? I don't need funds. Stop. Stupid thing. All right. So what you're looking at is I haven't added funds in 10 years. I don't need that stupid crap. So so you could go this direction. You can also do I think it's still viable to even do the double and go Brock Lowry and say, I think Lowry outscores him, even though Sayin has a big game. So I think it's possible on a short slate to be able to do that. And then you can just kind of get different. You can use Nate Frazier, and then it's funny because you'd end up with like Buckley or Jacoby Williams. So you could go both ways. You could go there. You could even do this, which would be hilarious. But I don't think it matters specifically. But that is a way to build this. I don't even think you have to do that, but because you can't go Bojack. That's the problem. Is if you do that and you go Sayin, you can't pull you're not going to get anything out of the money and go in Bojack. So, but yeah, I think it's very viable. You could definitely play double Ohio State without the quarterback. You don't have to play the quarterback. So anyway, fun way to play this. I think there's a lot of ways to play this. I am going to start. That's what I'm saying. I'm start working through lineups and trying to figure out how I want to play it. And then we'll just kind of talk about, I mean, I can tell you what the best plays on the slate are going to end up being once I get through it. But for the most part, you're going to want to pick and choose game stacks. So I think that's the difference of this slate by comparison to what we would normally be playing. Normally, we're going to say, hey, this is the best play on the slate. This is the second best play on the slate. I think you're doing that, but to an extent, it all needs to revolve around correlating plays, not individual great plays. It's going to be very, very difficult to pick out the perfect guys and set them in. I think you can do it, and given the higher scoring nature on Friday night, you got a little bit better of a shot. Saturday, you're just gonna have to find a game that pops, and because one of them's gonna pop off. I think Georgia Alabama is the most likely, or well, Virginia Duke should be the most likely, but Virginia Duke is also the only game that's outdoors, and it's always cold and nasty in Charlotte for this game. That's why nobody shows up to it. So we'll have to wait and see. I think that game probably got the most chance to go under, and the best chance to go over is Georgia Alabama. So I would probably start playing Georgia Alabama and then switch it out and then end up off of that a little bit more personally. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to start breaking down lineups and stuff. If I have projections, I'll kind of go through what my core is. But it's probably going to end up being more top stacks on DK than it is anything else. And then Friday will probably end up being kind of a lineup builder for Friday night because I'm going to have to build teams. So I'll probably do lineup builder Friday morning for the Friday night slate. I'm not going to build a crazy amount of stuff, but I'm probably going to showcase kind of where I'm at there, and build some stuff up. So I'll be back tomorrow, talking kind of like my main plays, but my most confident plays, we'll say, on the slate for this weekend for both Friday and Saturday. So I will see you guys then. Enjoy your evening. It's nice not to have football every day, but I still will miss it very soon. And I'll be begging to watch like a Liberty Jack State game